Syria as an act of aggression. Polls suggest a narrow majority of Turks will back President Erdogan's bid for new powers in Sunday's referendum.
As US Navy ships head to the Korean peninsula, Pyongyang has accused Washington of pushing the region to the brink of war. The North Korean Foreign Ministry said the US was bringing huge nuclear strategic assets to the area. Tension is rising amid concerns the North may conduct a sixth nuclear weapons test in defiance of the UN. Trump says it's North Korea which makes things complicated, but it's the other way round. It's not the Democratic Republic of North Korea, but the US. A nuclear test is something that our Supreme Headquarters decides on. The Trump administration has warned that the US policy of strategic patience with North Korea is over. Vice President Mike Pence visits South Korea on Sunday as part of an Asian tour.
Obviously, we're concerned about North Korea's pursuit of nuclear weapons and the ability to deliver those nuclear weapons in the region and even to the United States, and that continues to be a major concern or a primary concern. The time for action is now, and by that we need to look at ways to put increased pressure on North Korea.
China, which opposes North Korea's weapons program, has warned that conflict could erupt at any moment and says military force can't resolve the tension. Beijing has called for talks to rid the peninsula of nuclear weapons.
The Defense Ministry in Afghanistan thinks at least 36 suspected ISIL militants were killed when the US dropped a massive bomb. The Pentagon says the 21,600-pound GBU-43 bomb was dropped from an aircraft in the Achin district of the eastern province of Nangarhar, bordering Pakistan.
This was the right weapon against the right target. I want to assure the people of Afghanistan that our forces take every possible precaution to prevent civilian casualties.
The deaths have not been independently verified. However, officials say no civilians were harmed in the massive blast that destroyed a network of caves and tunnels. There were ISIL bases over there and they were operating in the area, he says. Last night's bomb was huge. When it dropped, everywhere was shaking. I think it killed 70 or 80 of them. It's good they were eliminated. No civilians were there at all. The GBU-43 is known as the mother of all bombs. It is a GPS-guided munition that had never before been used in combat since its first test in 2003.
Russia has once again denounced what it called an act of aggression after the US missile strike on a Syrian airbase in retaliation to a reported use of chemical weapons in Khan Sheikhoun. Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov made the remarks alongside his Iranian and Syrian counterparts at three-way talks on resolving the conflict in Moscow. The alliance supporting Syrian President Bashar al-Assad held a joint press conference roundly condemning the US actions. Lavrov said that breaking international law is unacceptable and that such aggressive actions are aimed at undermining the peace process.
Единогласно принятая резолюция Совета Безопасности ООН.
Russia called for an extensive and independent inquiry, a position echoed by the Syrian foreign minister. The question is knowing why the US would fear an investigation committee. Why did they commit this act of aggression even before a committee of inquiry was established? Do they want to reduce international relations to the law of the jungle? On Wednesday, Russia vetoed a UN Security Council resolution demanding a swift investigation into a chemical weapons attack in Syria, challenging claims that Assad was behind the chemical attack. Operations have begun to move residents away from 4 Syrian towns besieged by rebels and regime forces. An estimated 70,000 civilians have been living under a crippling siege in the 4 areas since 2015, where little food or aid has been allowed in. Early on Friday morning, hundreds of people from the government-held towns of Foua and Kafraya began to leave, while similar movements were underway at the rebel-held Madaya. The evacuation of Zabadani was apparently delayed. It marks the first phase of a deal struck between the warring sides in the conflict, involving a coordinated population swap of tens of thousands of residents. The opposition said the deal amounted to a forced demographic change to displace opponents of the regime away from the main cities in western Syria. There are just 2 days to go until Turkey goes to the polls in a referendum that could give sweeping new powers to Recep Tayyip Erdogan. The leader wants to replace the parliamentary system with an executive presidency. And after a close-fought race, new opinion polls suggest a narrow majority of those in the country are ready to say yes to the constitutional change. Yet, as one pollster explains, undecided voters could hold the key. When we put them equally in the yes and no camps, we see yes ahead at 51.3%. But as part of our margin of error, if we group the undecided voters with those who choose to abstain, we see the no vote leading. These bags contain votes from expatriates, which will also have an impact. Just as the campaign has split Turkey down the middle, its divisions have spilled over to the large Turkish diaspora in Europe. President Erdogan has accused European leaders of acting like Nazis for banning rallies on security grounds, while his opponents overseas say they have been spied on.